There are two words that can stop the emotional noise in a woman's mind mid-sentence. Not because they control her, but because they expose something most people never dare to show. Listen closely. Most men and women think attraction is created by saying the right thing, a clever line, a confident tone, a perfectly timed message. But psychology doesn't work that way. The human nervous system responds first to certainty, not charm. And certainty is rare, especially in relationships. Here's the uncomfortable truth you were never taught. People don't freeze when they feel impressed. They freeze when they feel grounded. When something in front of them is so internally solid that their emotional defenses don't know where to land. Most interactions are invisible negotiations. Approval for safety, validation for value, attention for reassurance. You can feel it in the subtext of conversations, the subtle leaning forward, the over-explaining, the nervous humor, the need to be understood. This is where attraction quietly dies. Not with rejection, but with emotional noise. The mind, male or female, never relaxes around need. It stays alert, it scans, it prepares to pull away. But when someone speaks from internal authority, the dynamic changes. Authority doesn't mean dominance. It doesn't mean volume. It means the absence of emotional begging, the absence of hidden agendas, the presence of choice. Most people don't realize this, but the brain is constantly asking one question in relationships. Is this person acting from desire or from fear? Fear sounds like performance. Desire sounds like stillness. Those two words I'm talking about don't work because they're magical. They work because they collapse the emotional tension in the room. They remove pressure. They signal something rare. I am not here to take, I am here because I choose. That signal hits the subconscious like a sudden silence after noise. And silence is powerful. Silence forces awareness inward. Think about the last time someone didn't rush to impress you, didn't chase your approval, didn't try to win the moment. How did it feel? Unsettling, calming, confusing, grounded. That's the freeze, not shock, orientation. Psychologically, when a person encounters emotional self-containment, their brain shifts out of prediction mode. It can't easily label the interaction as familiar. Familiar equals safe dismissal. Unfamiliar equals attention. This is where most advice goes wrong. It teaches tactics instead of states, scripts instead of psychology. But people don't fall for words. They fall for the state behind the words . And here's the part few are willing to admit. When someone realizes you don't need the outcome, they start investing emotionally. Not because they feel manipulated, but because they feel free to show up honestly. The freeze happens when a woman senses there is no emotional hook to grab onto, no insecurity to pull, no performance to reward, just presence. That presence doesn't chase attraction. It allows it. And once you understand this, you stop trying to say things that impress and start embodying things that stabilize, because stability is seductive in a world addicted to chaos. And those two words, they are only powerful when they are true. Those two words are simple, almost boring on the surface. But simplicity is threatening to a mind addicted to emotional games. They are, it's okay. Most people underestimate what happens psychologically when these words are spoken from truth instead of strategy. When a woman says she's unsure, when she pulls back, when she tests boundaries, when she withholds clarity, the expected response is pressure, questions, explanations, reassurance, chasing, tension. That's okay, does something radical. It removes friction. Not passive, not cold, neutral, grounded. The female nervous system is highly sensitive to emotional pressure, not because of weakness, but because of social conditioning and evolutionary awareness. Pressure signals unpredictability. Unpredictability signals danger. When someone reacts emotionally to uncertainty, the subconscious reads, this person is attached to outcomes I control. That creates power imbalance, and power imbalance kills desire. When you say that's okay and mean it, you are communicating several things at once without explaining any of them. You're saying, I'm not threatened by your uncertainty. I'm saying, I don't need to persuade you. I'm saying, I'm comfortable whether you stay or go. The mind doesn't argue with that. It recalibrates. Here's what happens internally. Her brain expects escalation, emotional reaction, justification, tension. When it doesn't arrive, prediction fails. And when prediction fails, attention spikes. The freeze is not confusion, it's recalculation. Because now the question changes. Instead of "do I have the upper hand?" it becomes "why doesn't he?" This is where most people sabotage themselves. They say the words, but their tone leaks expectation. Their body language asks for approval. Their follow-up messages undo the neutrality. Words alone don't carry weight. Emotional congruence * does. That's okay, only works when it's backed by internal independence. This applies to women as well. When a man pulls back, avoids commitment, sends mixed signals, responding with grounded acceptance instead of anxiety shifts the dynamic instantly. The masculine psyche also freezes when emotional leverage disappears. Here's the deeper layer. These words don't manipulate attraction, they expose it. If interest is genuine, it surfaces. If it's conditional, it collapses. And that's not loss, that's clarity. Clarity feels uncomfortable to people who survive on ambiguity. But clarity is peace for those who value themselves. Psychologically, humans are drawn to emotional anchors. Someone who doesn't swing with every emotional wave becomes a reference point, a center. And centers attract movement around them. That's why these words feel heavy. They signal emotional adulthood, not indifference, not arrogance, emotional self-trust. Most people never learned this. They learned to negotiate affection, to trade attention for validation, to confuse intensity with intimacy. But intimacy begins where pressure ends. When you say "that's okay" without bitterness, sarcasm, or withdrawal, you are offering freedom, and freedom creates voluntary connection or reveals absence. Both outcomes are power. The freeze happens because the usual script has been interrupted. No drama to react to, no insecurity to manage, no emotional energy to harvest, just calm. And calm is rare, especially in dating, especially in relationships, especially in a world where everyone is trying to be chosen instead of choosing themselves. When someone encounters calm, their nervous system pauses, it listens, it reassesses. That pause is the moment attraction either deepens or truth surfaces. And either way, you win. Most people don't fear rejection, they fear irrelevance. They fear being calm and being left anyway. That fear is why "that's okay" feels so hard to say. It feels like surrender, like letting go of control. But psychologically, control was never yours to begin with. What you always had was self-respect. And self-respect is the most destabilizing thing you can bring into an uncertain dynamic. Here's what happens when you don't say it. You explain, you justify, you lean in, you try to be understood. Your nervous system becomes louder than your words, and the louder you get emotionally, the quieter your value becomes. The human mind equates effort under uncertainty with lower leverage. Not because effort is bad, but because effort without boundaries signals fear of loss. And fear of loss transfers power outward. When you say "that's okay" and stop negotiating, you are closing the emotional marketplace. No bidding, no discounts, no chasing. This is why the freeze feels so intense. The other person suddenly realizes, "I can't extract reassurance here," and that realization forces honesty. Here's the part nobody tells you. Attraction often survives uncertainty, but it does not survive emotional collapse. Once someone sees that your sense of worth depends on their response, the dynamic shifts permanently. This isn't about being unfeeling, it's about being anchored. Anchored people don't punish withdrawal. They don't reward indecision. They don't beg clarity from confusion. They allow space, and space is where truth reveals itself. In long-term relationships, this is even more critical. The moment one partner becomes emotionally reactive to every fluctuation, desire begins to erode. Not because love is gone, but because polarity is. Polarity lives in stability. When you remain centered during emotional uncertainty, you become the calm axis around which emotion moves. That doesn't make you distant. It makes you dependable. For women watching this, the same psychology applies. When you stop over-functioning emotionally, Stop rescuing conversations. Stop filling silence with reassurance. Men feel it immediately. The masculine psyche is deeply affected by emotional steadiness. It creates respect before it creates desire. For men, this isn't about dominance or withholding. It's about not outsourcing your emotional grounding to someone else's reaction. "That's okay" is not an ending, it's a filter. People who are genuinely interested will step forward when pressure disappears. People who are enjoying leverage will drift. Both outcomes protect your nervous system. This is why emotionally mature people seem rare. They are because maturity requires the courage to be misunderstood temporarily instead of disrespected permanently. The freeze comes from confrontation with reality, not the other person's reality, but their own. They must now decide freely, without emotional manipulation, cushioning the choice. Freedom is uncomfortable, but it's honest, and honesty is the foundation of real connection. Once you stop reacting to emotional withdrawal with fear, you begin to see patterns clearly. Who communicates when there's no pressure? Who shows up when there's no chase? Who values you when there's no performance? This awareness changes everything. You stop asking, "How do I keep them interested?" and start asking, "Do they meet me where I stand?" That shift is where confidence becomes quiet, where attraction becomes mutual, where games lose their power, and from that place, you no longer fear losing people because you finally stop losing yourself. That's the real reason those two words are so powerful. They don't freeze others, they free you. Here is the final truth most people only learn after years of emotional exhaustion. Attraction is not built by convincing someone to stay. It's built by being someone who doesn't abandon themselves when uncertainty appears. When you say "that's okay," and you truly mean it, you are drawing a line, not against the other person, but for yourself. You are saying, "I can tolerate discomfort without betraying my worth," and that is rare. Most people panic at emotional silence. They rush to fill it. They assume distance means danger, but distance is not the enemy. Self-betrayal is. Psychologically, when someone senses you will not cross your own boundaries to keep them, their perception of you shifts upward. Not because you're trying to be high value, but because you are behaving in alignment with value. This is why the freeze doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, a pause in replies, a change in tone, a sudden increase in attention later, or a complete disappearance. And all of those are information. What you do next determines your trajectory. If they lean back in, it's because space clarified desire. If they disappear, it's because space exposed absence. Both outcomes save you time, energy, and emotional debt. Here's the mentor-level insight. Emotionally grounded people don't chase clarity from unclear people. They create clarity by how they respond to uncertainty. "That's okay" is not the end of a conversation. It's the end of emotional chasing. And when chasing ends, choice begins. This applies to dating, marriage, friendships, even family dynamics. The moment you stop trying to manage other people's feelings at the expense of your own nervous system, your life recalibrates. You become harder to manipulate, easier to trust, more peaceful to be around. And people feel that before they understand it. That's why these two words are dangerous to emotional games. They remove the hooks, they flatten the drama, they return responsibility to where it belongs, to the person choosing. Most people will never do this. They'll keep negotiating their worth. They'll keep mistaking anxiety for passion. They'll keep fearing silence. But you don't have to. You can be the person who stays calm when things are unclear, who doesn't punish or plead, who doesn't disappear or over-explain, just present, just grounded, and that presence changes everything. So here's my question for you, and answer it honestly in the comments. Where in your life are you still chasing reassurance instead of standing in self-respect? If this video gave you clarity, hit like so more people hear what they need to hear. Subscribe for deeper psychology that actually protects your peace. And share this with one person who keeps losing themselves trying to be chosen because they might not realize yet that calm is the real power.